Hi, and welcome back to the Save It for Parts channel. Recently, I've been doing quite a few different projects involving radios and homemade antennas and satellite receivers and other such things. Now, my satellite dish project is kind of sitting over here neglected at the moment, but I've got this rather mysterious antenna that I got as surplus from an outfit that was throwing it away. Now, I don't know what this antenna does, so to figure out what frequency that antenna is tuned for, I'm going to use this little nano VNA, which is a lot of things, but I mainly use it as a SWR meter, and it'll show me the full frequency spectrum that I select, and then it should show me a spike where that antenna is tuned. And then I've been to Axeman recently and picked up this in to SMA adapter. I didn't know what I would use it for, but I just grabbed basically one of every cable that they had lying around there at Axeman. So that should let me go from the nano VNA up to that big antenna. I'm going to fully assemble this antenna and bring it outside. Alright, well this thing is officially ridiculous. If I end up putting this on my roof, it's definitely going to attract lightning strikes. So it looks like this thing is optimized between about 415 and 515 or 520 megahertz. Well, apparently I can pick up Fox TV on my radio antenna, so that's weird. Alright, well I've got the thing up here on my roof, along with a few other antennas, such as my QFH antenna here for satellite weather radio. And then I've got my scanner antenna and some other stuff over there. I probably shouldn't have them all that close together, so if I end up using this big one for anything, I'll need to make its own mount.
Hi, and welcome back to the Save It for Parts roof. Or is it roof? Ruff? People call me out on how I pronounce roof. I don't know if the roof pronunciation is a southern thing. I grew up in Alaska with a California accent, so yeah, I might say things a little weird sometimes. Anyway, we're up here on top of my house to follow up on a video that I started 3 years ago. That's right, everything you've seen so far in this video was shot in spring of 2021, and it is now spring of 2024, or more accurately, it's early February, which apparently is spring now in Minnesota. We had about 2 weeks of actual winter, and now it's 50-degree temperature all week again. Anyway, I've been keeping that mystery antenna up here on the roof just laid flat. It's showed up on a couple prior videos, and some people gave me tips and ideas on what it might be. So I figured, you know what, it's been 3 years. The thing has been up here long enough to start showing up on Google Maps. It's time to pull it down, do something with it, and actually use the thing instead of just cluttering up my rooftop with it. Let's see if this can go through a window. Side note, I did that roof shot with this remote wireless microphone. This sounds terrible, so I don't know if I'll be able to use that roof shot at all. Yeah, I'll probably do a full review on this right before I throw it into the trash, because this is garbage. Alright, I'd like to put the antenna up somewhere on the side of the garage here. Maybe over that way, but I think it's going to be easier to put it on this side because I have a mount that can go into the asphalt, and then we can tie it into the edge of the roof line up there. I don't know if we're going to need any guy wires, hopefully not, but we'll come to that if we need to. I've got some of these random pipe chunks that I dumpster dived. I was going to use one of these from a big satellite dish. Might end up using this shorter one for the UHF antenna. Alright, and our antenna actually slips right into our other pole here. It's almost like I knew what I was doing. I feel like I have a big pipe bracket around here somewhere, but this has been the biggest one I've found so far, and it's not quite where what I want. So just digging through all my hoarded fasteners that I get from estate sales and auctions and dumpster diving, all the stuff that just goes in bins into the cupboard here doesn't get sorted. So whenever I want one of these giant pieces of hardware, I just have to dig all of it out and see what fits. Yeah, this box is just... this one's just falling apart in there. I think I need a new box. I didn't find anything in that cupboard, but I dug through my aluminum scrap and I found this really cool piece of channel, which might be just the right diameter. Oh yeah, that is perfect. You see, kids, if you save enough random trash, eventually one piece of trash fits another piece of trash just perfectly and everything comes together.
So I dumpster dived all these fasteners the other day, and yeah, we could bolt it into the ground with these, although I think this is a little bit too big, and I think it would eventually work itself loose. So I'll probably use something more like this. We'll drill a hole, pound that into the ground, and then we screw down and it secures itself in. Somebody was just throwing these away from a construction company. This is why new construction costs so much these days. There's our antenna, finally installed in a permanent, or at least I hope it's permanent, mounting solution. No longer just temporarily propped up on the roof or on the ground. Yeah, it's pretty tall. It's taller than it looks from looking at it at the ground. I never did get around to any lightning protection, but the whole metal pole in the center is grounded directly into the ground with those long bolts into the asphalt. The trees around me are higher than this antenna, so I'm hoping that it's fine for lightning. Yeah, there was something else I was going to say about it, but I just keep getting distracted by how ridiculous this thing is. All right, so what kind of radio am I actually going to hook up to this thing? Now, in the first part of this video, I showed off one of these Lexan mobile radios. They're kind of the base station or mobile version of those Baofangs. Unfortunately, in the intervening 3 years, this one has started to suffer a few problems. First off, it lost all its memory names, so I was just looking at frequencies, and now the little LCD isn't showing up at all. So, yeah, it's basically dead. I think it's not even doing anything here when I push the buttons or try to change frequencies. So I've had this in my car. I honestly haven't even been transmitting with it. I've only been using it as a scanner, and I rarely, if ever, get on the air with this. So it's basically never transmitted in 3 years, and it's still just died. So these Lexan radios, unfortunately, I can't recommend these for any length of time. I have another one on my boat, thinking about ripping it out and replacing it, but we'll see if it lasts. Instead, I'm going to use the old, reliable Baofeng handheld, and for how much people badmouth these things, I have never managed to destroy one. And I take them in some pretty stupid situations, including kayaking on the Great Lakes with waves breaking over my radio, dropping them down mine shafts, dropping them out of moving vehicles in the desert. Yeah, these things surprisingly put up with a lot of abuse, and they're only $25, so these are really my go-to radio. Even though they're a terrible ham radio, everyone hates them. They're fine for listening, and they're fine for my purposes. Now, this particular one is kind of an oddball case and form factor. It's the same radio underneath as all the other Baofangs. It's basically the same firmware, same hardware. It's just got this weird rubberized case and kind of a non-standard battery, so it doesn't fit my regular battery chargers. It's basically a little bit less convenient than all the other ones. So I'm going to dedicate this one to be my garage radio. I'm going to hook it up to the big antenna, and then we're going to tune that into some ham radio repeaters. The radio antenna that I just installed, as far as I can tell, is tuned for about 450 to 470 megahertz. At least that's according to all the folks that commented when I showed it in other videos. Now, I did run it through that Nano VNA. It seemed like it had pretty good performance between about 415 and 500 megahertz, so I think it'll work just fine to receive 70 centimeter ham frequencies. I'm not going to be really transmitting on it, at least not yet, so I don't care that it's tuned up a little bit higher in the 450 megahertz band. For receiving, I think it'll work just fine. Of course, we need a few adapters and extension cables for the antenna so we can get from the roof down into the garage here. And I might end up going with a thicker cable for the main run and then the little adapter right at the end, but right now all I have is this thin little guy, so I'll have to go on Amazon and order some more stuff in the future. For now, the radio is just going to live on this dirty, half-finished windowsill because that's as far as the antenna cable reaches. Now, this is great if I'm out in the garage working and I want to monitor the local 70 centimeter repeaters, but I'm not out here 24/7, and this is my biggest UHF antenna, so if I want to catch calls, catch traffic when I'm out of the garage, when I'm sleeping, this seems like another great use for the Boondock Echo. I've showed this little gadget off in some other videos. The company that makes this sent me one, a very early test model to play with. We took it out to the desert, we played around with it out there, and they've actually gotten some new firmware based on my recommendations for offline use. I'm going to play with that a little bit more, maybe in another video. For now, I'm just going to hook this up out here, connect it to that Baofeng, use it for its original intended purpose of a Baofeng answering machine, ham radio answering machine. So radio traffic that comes in gets recorded on an SD card on this box. You can play it back with the front panel or over a web app, and you can have keywords set up for your call sign, for other keywords like emergencies, mayday calls, things like that. The guys at Boondock didn't actually ask me to do a review, so this isn't a review. It's not a paid or sponsored promotion. I just think this is a cool little device, and I'll put the info in it down in the description below. Well, here's my rough setup for now. I will probably move all of this equipment to a more permanent and better mounted location once I have a longer antenna cable. If there's any interesting chatter on the 444 megahertz repeaters that I have programmed in, we'll hear it and we'll have it recorded. I'm definitely hearing a lot more traffic now with this big antenna.
K9ARN, recheck. Good morning, everyone. This is November 0, Victor Oscar Echo, Kilowatt 9 Echo Romeo, and November.
Alright, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I have certainly enjoyed making my garage look dumber, and I have to stand way over here to even get the whole thing in the camera frame now. So yeah, I think that's going to be fun to play with. I am looking forward to putting more antennas up on the garage in the future. We're going to try to rearrange some of the ham radio stuff, some of the satellite antenna stuff, move some things off of the house and over there, get things a little more organized. They're kind of a mess right up on the roof of the house right now. So those are all projects for the future. Stay tuned for those, and of course we'll have plenty more satellite projects, radio projects, boats, trains. Now that the weather's warming up, we might end up doing more boats and trains than electronic stuff, but that remains to be seen. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.